Okay, so I'm just going to repeat this one more time. For everyone that doesn't reply, they're going to be replaced, be placed in the waiting room. Okay, so not sure if the brother can hear me or not. Sent you a message on the side. Just respond back with your name, number, location, and email. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and open up. All meetings are to be opened and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. All rise. Please, everyone, rise and face the east for the Moorish American prayer. Right, if you're able to, please rise, face the east. You're going to put your heels together. Your feet are going to be at a 45-degree angle, like a V. Please hold up your hands. Hold up 2 fingers on the right, 5 on the left. Arms going to be up perpendicular. Face the east. And you can repeat after the sister.
Allah,
Allah,
Father of the universe,
Father of the universe,
Father of love,
Father of love,
truth,
truth,
peace,
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 freedom,
freedom,
and justice.
and justice.
Allah is my protector,
Allah is my protector,
my guide,
my God,
and my salvation,
and my salvation.
by night
By night
and by day,
and by day.
through his holy prophet,
Through his holy prophet,
Drew Ali.
Drew Ali.
Islam, Islam, Islamism.
Islamism.
Islam.
Right.
Allah.
All right, I want to announce that the meeting is now open. First and foremost, we always rise. We give the highest praise to the Most High, the creator of the universe, our Father God, Allah. We give honors to our holy and divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali, for returning our divine creed and nationality to us so that we may learn to love instead of hate. We also give honors to our brother, the forerunner to the prophet, Brother Marcus Mosiah Garvey. We give honors to all the Adab Sheiks and all the faithful Moors that make up the grand body of the Moorish Divine and National Movement. We also give honors to our brother, the first appointed Supreme Grand Sheik, and that's Brother E. Millie Ill. We give honors to our current Supreme Grand Sheik, Brother K. Dandridgel, and honors to the Grand Council of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Honors to all the faithful on the call. Islam, Islam, Islamism. Now, Brother Jackson Bey, would you please read the Divine Constitution and Bylaws?
Islam. Praise, I rise giving perfect praise to Allah and honor to the Prophet and honor to you Muslims. Salvation, Allah, unity. The Moorish Science Temple of America, the Divine Constitution and Bylaws. Act 1. The Grand Sheik and the Chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce law with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Assistant Grand Sheik is to assist the Grand Sheik in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be open and closed properly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because on a Friday the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is a holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are part and parcel of the government and must live a life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Jew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become partial of all uplifting acts to the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali, through the guidance of his father God Allah. Noble Jew Ali, founder, Moorish American prayer, Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali. Amen. Moorish Science Temple of America. Home office of Noble Jew Ali. Home office, Chicago, Illinois, USA. Islam, Islam, Islamism.
All right, Islamism. Islamism. Thank you, brother. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. As I said earlier, we're reading from the Koran Questionnaire. Right, we have it up on the screen for those who don't have yours on you. We're going over questions 11 through 20. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Once again, though, if you have questions, just hang on, and we'll get to that after this lesson. All right. Okay, so question 11. Where was Noble Drew Ali born? And the answer is in the state of North Carolina, 1886. All right, before I add anything, would anyone else like to demonstrate on that, Brother Jackson Bay?
Islam. Hold on, I'm writing people's names down. We on key 11.
All right. Well, just real quick, why do you think that would be significant where he's born?
Islam, because in North Carolina, it was the North Carolina is where the Negro Act was at, and also the Moorish Sundry Act was at, and that right there in the Negro Act of I think North or South Carolina is one of the Carolinas, and what had happened was it defined the Negro, and it showed the difference between the Negro and the Moor, and then the Sundry Act, which happened 30 years later, I believe, because the Sundry Moors Act is 1790, and I think the Moorish, I mean not the Moorish, the Negro Act was in 1740. So it was about 50 years when it came, and that one was it was a petition by four Moorish families for us to be considered as Moors and not treated as Negroes. And him being born in that state in 1886, he would be privy to that direct knowledge. And it's some more things too. It's like I you threw it off me a spot, but it's something called it's the Turks of North Carolina or the Turks of South Carolina. So I don't know. Maybe you could pull that up or look it up. But yeah, that's probably why I think it's important to know where he's born. South Carolina.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So so all that information he was around. He was around that information of knowing what Moors were. People was identified as Moors or along the East Coast where he was, and I think Delaware too, and also the Turks, and just knowing all that information. So then he comes, and in the Circle 7, he says the Turks are the true defenders of the Islamic creed. So Islam. That's why I think it was so important knowing where he was born at the time period. Islam.
Islam. All right, somebody in it. Okay, brother Shaw Bay said, can you name the acts again, bro? I think he's talking about the Sundry Moors Act. That was I think around 1790. I don't have the exact date. That was in South Carolina. And then you had the forgive me, it's skipping my mind right now, but you had also another situation in South Carolina as well with brothers and sisters identifying as Moors versus being classified as Negroes. And that was also in South Carolina, Islam. So thanks for demonstrating on that. I believe the sister Douglas L wanted to say something about that as well. Okay. All right. That's Islam. So that's definitely on point. Another thing that I would like to add is just with him being from North Carolina, it lets you know that he had a good grasp on what was going on our conditions, right? There was a race riot in Wilmington, North Carolina, right? That was extremely really bad. And you have several situations like this going on. You had a situation where people who were Lumbee Indians, but these were people who many of them wound up being classified as Negroes who basically got into almost a gunfight with the KKK, where they came and tried to set up shop in their community in North Carolina, and they came out with their guns ready to fight, ready to go to war, and it made the KKK leave, So this was going on in North Carolina. So he understood clearly what our people was going through at the time, but also, which is very important, extremely important, is something that we all need to know and understand and not forget. All right. This satisfies something that is very important as far as him being a prophet. All right. Being our prophet for us, the Asiatics of North America. All right. The fact that he was born in the state of North Carolina is significant because prophets are always raised from amongst the very people, the nation that they come to redeem, right? Because people are more likely to accept divine instruction from one of their own who speaks their language. All right. And we're going to talk about this too, because it's in the Quran in 3 different places in the Quran. In Surah 14:4, it says, we sent not a messenger except to teach in the language of his own people in order to make things clear to them. Now Allah leaves straying those whom he pleases and guides whom he pleases, and he is exalted and powerful of wisdom. Now that's one. But then it's also in 1636, Surah 16, verse 36. It says, for we assuredly sent amongst every people a messenger. And that's very key because you have 2 tiers of prophets. Not to get off subject, but you have the prophets, who prophesize, and they would be called nabis. In Arabic, it's a nabi. Okay? But then you have a higher tier of prophets who are messengers. Every messenger is also a nabi. A messenger in Arabic is rasul, right? So the rasul of Allah is a messenger. And every messenger is also a nabi. The nabi is the one who prophesizes, but every nabi is not a messenger. So there's a hierarchy in prophets. All right. So there's been over 144 prophets. Okay. But you don't have as many messengers. The messengers also bring the law. So there's a hierarchy. That's why the messenger's at the top. So every messenger is also a prophet. They can prophesy too, but they're also bringing the law. They're bringing, they have more responsibility. Okay. So in Surah 16, verse 36, it says, for assuredly we sent amongst every people a messenger with the command, serve Allah and eschew evil. Of the people were some whom Allah guided and some whom error became inevitably established, right? And so just to cut that short, it's letting you know that amongst every people, they send a messenger. They send a Rasul. So that's the second time in the Quran that it's telling you, because in the first one that I read previously in 14, Surah 14, Ayat 4, it says, we sent not a messenger except to teach in the language of his own people in order to make things clear to them. So these are two surahs where it's telling you that they send a Rasul to every ummah. The ummah is the nation, or a community, the people. So they send this messenger to every people. Okay, and real quick, just to pause, can get the information for this person. It says source partners. Okay, Islam. So going back, okay, so we have two surahs, but that's not it. Also in Surah 10, Ayat 47. Surah 10, Ayat 47, it says, and for every ummah, remember that's a community or a nation, for every ummah there is a messenger. When the messenger comes, the matter will be judged between them with justice, and they will not be wronged. So that's 3 surahs in the Quran. It's in there, so it cannot be mistaken. That's in 1047. It's in 1636 and 14:4. And each time it says that every ummah, every nation has a messenger. Okay, so every nation gets this Rasul. Remember, the Rasul is the messenger. They're prophesizing. They're also bringing the laws. They have this, a lot of responsibilities. So there's a hierarchy in prophets, and then you have Nabis who are prophets, and there's a lot of them, but you don't have that many Rasuls. So Prophet Noble Drew Ali is a Rasul, and he fits this mode that has been established. It can't be mistaken because it's in the Quran 3 times, right? For every ummah, every nation, there's a messenger, and he's coming from amongst the people and speaking their language. So with the Prophet Noble Drew Ali being born in the state of North Carolina in 1886, where a lot of our people are suffering, the conditions aren't all that great. So he's coming up in this time period, speaking our language, understanding our culture, and knowing intimately what we're going through. So he came from amongst us. So that's extremely important. And, I just wanted to make that connection because as Moorish American Muslims, we need to know this. Nobody can call us on this because this is in the Quran 3 times, right? The prophet has to come from amongst the people speaking their language, right? How is he going to understand what they're going through unless he's coming from amongst them? Suffering as they suffer, right? So he knew it. He understood it, and he understood us, and he was able to speak to us in our language. So then that's stated explicitly 3 times. Every messenger was sent to every people, every nation, in their own language and understanding them so that they can clearly get the message that he has. All right, so that's very important. And it's real easy to look over it because it just says where was he born, but there's more to it than that. And that satisfies from an Islamic perspective the qualifications for being a Rasul. All right, and so we're gonna go ahead and move on to question 12. What is his nationality? And the answer is Moorish American. Okay, and so looking at the term nationality means a people linked by common descent from an accepted ancestor and sharing a common history, language, religion, land, culture, and way of life. Okay. All right. And so, all right. And real quick, I'm gonna pause to answer the question that the brother Shaw Bay had, just in case you can't see that. Sundry Free Moors Act of 1790. And then we had the Negro Act of 1740, which explicitly mentions that, that Moors basically, it lets it be known that Moors are people, right? Moors have rights, and that Negroes don't. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe that Negro Act also lets it be known that the dark-skinned so-called Indians are to be classified as Negroes. It just lays it all out. And that's what was going on at that time. Now, to go back to question 12, what is his nationality? We just explained nationality. It's the people linked by common descent from an accepted ancestor having a common history, language, religion, land, culture, and way of life. All right, so every people have the nationality. This is something that was stripped from us over time, right? They were getting people from one area, Louisiana, sending them out into the Caribbean or sending them up to different states, trying to cause confusion, cutting people off from their ancestry, and then labeling everybody as a Negro. And they defined a Negro as something that's basically cut off from the human family. All right, so that was just put in to divide and to keep us in a position where we're subjugated, right? To make a servant, permanent servant class. And then over time, that name kept changing, right? It went from Negro to colored. And when I talk to people who were adults in the 60s, they're telling me that black was an insult at that time. Right? Not talking about people like my mom, she would have been a little child, she didn't really know, but talking to people who were adults in the 60s, they're like, oh no, black was, an insult. Like they didn't go along with being called a color yet. They had to be worked into that. James Brown had the song, I'm Black and I'm Proud. Islam, we have a question.
Islam. I rise and give praise to Allah, honors to his prophet, Noble Drawli, honors to all you Moors in attendance. I just wanted to add, living abroad in Brazil, we noticed that as well. When they called each other black, it was a direct insult. It was to show that they were unhappy, that it was a disgrace. So those are fighting words. They had a word for the color black, which is preto. It's not even negro. And they have a word that's negro that is not the color black, but it is what you would call a person of having bad characteristics. So that was eye-opening for us living abroad and seeing this, Islam.
All right, Islam, and all of these labels that they put on us, they disconnect us from all of the things mentioned in that definition for nationality, right? Having these colors, colored, actually calling us colored. Can you believe like our people were actually going along with that? They were actually calling themselves colored. They had a National Association of Colored People, and it's still around today, right? So going along with this label that was or these labels that were created for us, it disconnects us from a common history, language, religion, land, culture, and way of life. It disconnects us from all that. We're not connected to any geographical location, any of that, any real ancestors, any real people who accomplished anything in the past. It disconnects us from all that, and we have no cultural identity. All right, they removed us from the family of nations. Okay, and so Moorish American reflects our African heritage and our American experience because we're a combination of the two. All right, and so unless anybody has any questions, go ahead and move on to 13. Islam.
Yesterday, I was just joking. I've been putting my Filipino brothers out here on the more science and telling them about, Pope Philippines, the Pope Philip. And today they were joking because they were talking about a football game. And it was like, you got to call it the Washington, because you can't call it the Washington Redskins. You can't call the Washington dark skin. You can't call the Washington light skin. So even they're woke and they know like, oh, yeah. But they was joking about it, but they were joking about it to the Europeans looking at them like, you know, y'all was kind of bogus for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you was a little bit bogus. So even they're waking up, you know what I'm saying? Just knowing it. Cause I just tell them to go go look on YouTube, come onto our Zoom, which they haven't yet. But like, come on to our Zoom meeting and you would kind of understand. But they look at it and they'll look at it and they'll come right back to me like, yeah, you talking the truth. We are all the one people. We are all the people of the color. And when I was in Illinois, I mean, way back, the gangbanger Mexicans, they older people that were like, you know, in their 60s and 70s, they always looked at us and smiled at us and said, we human. What do you think hue mean? In Latin, it means color. So we are people of color, but I think as us, we took that color thing too far. Because when the Europeans decided to change the color game and make it a race, that's where we like kind of went with the race. Because we good at it. You know, we real good at it. Black Wall Street could tell you that 100 years ago. It took us 8 months, you know what I'm saying, 8-9 months to build a Wall Street better than any European Wall Street from coming out of slavery. So, I mean, it's just right there. We there.
Islam, man, thanks for sharing. And you might want to hit the Filipino brothers off with like a link to there's a quote from the president of the Philippines. His name is Duarte, and he was saying that they don't want to be named after, like you said, Prince Philip or King Philip. That they were Moros. And he, you know, they actually have like a movement with people rising in consciousness where they're going back to their old ways. Can you remove that person? Thanks.
Islam, praise Allah. I definitely, just to camel back as far as on what Kobe said, dealing with your international brothers. I was in Kroger's, literally yesterday, and I was talking to them. And they was like, "Man, I like your hat. I had the fez on or whatever." I was like, "Nah, this a fez." He's like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "You Muslim?" Like, I'm like, "I'm Moorish." You know what I mean? So he's like, "Moorish." Like at first, I see this. It's like when you talk to our international family, it's like they like don't think that you know, and then you start breaking it down like, oh nah, Moorish, you know, the Moroccans, the ancient Moroccans. I just started expanding. I was like, you know, King Muhammad V, you know, he used to be the Sultan, right? He like, oh yeah, that like yeah, and I just broke down. I was like, nah, you know, Algiers, Tunis, all the things how the prophet try to set us up and the truth behind it. You know, how you just use that, and the brothers like, yo, you speaking the truth, man. Like, so like they try to they act dumb around somebody else, but as soon as you start breaking it down, it's like, oh nah, I'm Moorish. I was like, oh nah, you know about the prophet, like yeah, that, and you feel what I'm saying? Just broke it down. It's like, but they just gonna play you on as much as you know, so you just gotta come and always be sharp, you know, with your soul, like, oh nah, you know, the ancient Moroccans, you know, Tunis, I'll just start naming it and start naming like little key things, like especially because they were Sudanese. So I was like, oh yeah, so you know, like, you know, the west, you know, east and west of Libya. And you know, they be understanding stuff like, yeah, you know, tribes. And then they'll start talking and breaking the whole thing down. And be like, yeah, man, I be telling people you gotta have a nationality. And now I'm like, yeah, keep on telling them they got that. Matter of fact, tell them they Moroccan, tell them they Moorish. You know what I mean? So Islam, just to add Camelback, as far as nationality, man, like everybody know our nationality and know about nationality, you know, except us, or the, you know, Islam.
Islam.
If I can add, that's why the prophet said, study self and be who you are. Because when we know who we are and we're being who we are in public, in our neighborhoods, you know, traveling, others will see. And the ones who know, it would just remind them that, you know, we're waking up and, you know, we're mobilizing and we're doing what we're supposed to do.
Islam. So when they see us being who we truly are, that just reminds them that we're not a four-legged beast, because that's what a Negro is. Moving on, to question 13. What is your nationality? Moorish American. So the prophet lets us know his nationality is Moorish American. Our nationality is the same as his. Of course, he was raised from amongst us, right? We are one and the same. He's returning us to the divine will of Allah. In the Holy Quran, it says in Surah 5, verse 48, it says, if Allah has so willed, he would have made us a single people. But his plan is to test us in what he hath given us. So strive as in a race in all virtues. All right. And looking at this, it shows you that Allah established or created all the nations. He created the different nations of people, right? So we're returning to the divine will of Allah, which will also bring the rewards, you know, the blessings that come along with that. But that also shows that this is why we're suffering, because we're out of law, divine law. All right. So the prophet came to return us to this. And that's why it's saying, what is his nationality? His nationality is Moorish American, and then ours is Moorish American. He's returned. He's getting us back in alignment with divine will. All right. This is what Allah did. If Allah had so willed, he would have made us a single people. But his plan is to test us. So Allah created the different nations. All right. And or the different nations, the different tribes, right? And it wasn't created so that we could fight and despise each other, right? Also, in it's saying that he made us into nations and tribes that we may know each other, not that we may despise each other. Okay, so Allah created this, right, to strengthen us, you know, as a test, to make, you know, so that we can prove or show the greatness, to demonstrate Allah and man, right? So he created this for a reason, all right? And we are returning back to this divine will. We've been outside of it. That's why we're in this position now as a collective where we're undesirables, because that's what happens when you have a people who aren't connected to their ancestors, who are just out there, right? There's another situation in the country of Yemen where you have some people who are, for the most part, dark-skinned, and they're called undesirables, and they get abused and misused, and they're in a similar situation to the so-called African-American, to the Asiatics of North America, right? They're in the same position as us, all right? But this is why we suffer, because we're out of divine will. And yes, you had trickery and deceit and things that took place to get us in that position, but obviously they're not going to write that. It's on us to get back to that. And by mercy of Allah, a prophet was sent to us to get us back into the divine will. So by proclaiming our nationality, we are submitting to Allah's perfect wisdom, and we're acknowledging that he's the best of planners. All right. Okay, so I'm going to move on to question 14. Why are we Moorish Americans? And the answer is because we are descendants of Moroccans and born in America. All right. So we're always going to be what our forefathers were. And the name, like Morocco, to say that we're Moroccans, we're descendants of Moroccans and born in America, people may think about the present day nation state of Morocco. That's looking at it in the restrictive sense, right? Because that's not all that Morocco was. Doesn't matter how you look at it. When you look to the right and left of Morocco, Tunis, Algiers, Mauritania, all of these things were a portion of the kingdom of Morocco, right? And then in some point, even on all the way out to West Africa, all the way out to Nigeria, going up into Europe, Spain, right? This was the stronghold for a long time, almost 800 years, right? From 711 to 1491. You had a stronghold in Spain. The Moroccan kingdom even expanded over here into the Americas. The Europeans, this is the first thing they described. Columbus described seeing mosques in Cuba, all throughout the Caribbean, when they met up with rulers over here like Montezuma, they categorized him as a Moorish ruler. Why? Because he was a dark-skinned man with Moorish garbs. The buildings were Islamic, right? The translators that they brought over here to the Americas were able to speak Arabic and Aramaic or Hebrew languages, and they were able to communicate with the indigenous people over here. So in the non-restrictive sense, right, the Moroccan Empire, that included all of the Wolof speaking people, the Iwe, Igbo, all of these Yoruba, all of these different tribes, the Mandingo, all of these people in Northwestern and even Southwestern Africa. So it wasn't even limited to just one region. And then it expanded into Europe and then even into the Philippines. For a while, that was an Islamic kingdom. And that's why you have people now who are trying to return to that ancient consciousness. They're re-identifying themselves as Moros, right? This is a worldwide thing. Okay, so this is why we're the descendants of Moroccans. All right, because we're looking at it in the non-restrictive sense. We know that Morocco wasn't limited to that area that you have in the present day nation state of Morocco. We know that. And so that's what we're identifying with. And that would just be to provide some insight into that answer. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, so question 15 is, for what purpose was the Moorish Science Temple of America founded? And then the answer is for the upliftment of fallen humanity. All right, and basically the Moorish Science Temple of America is founded on these universal principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And we stand on that. And then we have a sacred mission, right? Every nation actually has a mission. Every nation has a mission. And our mission is sacred, to uplift fallen humanity. And of course, that starts with us, right? Because we can't uplift anyone if we're still in a fallen state. So the first thing that we do is return to the divine will of Allah, which we know that Allah created the nations and tribes. So we have to return to that. We can't be undesirables. We can't be outside of the mix. We can't be out here trying to force people to go along with some Black Lives Matters. We can't force that on people. And that's why no matter how much people march, no matter how often people lay down on the ground with their hands in the air, I mean, that's insane if you ask me. But no matter, and the thinking behind that is that if we show how non-threatening we are, maybe they'll stop murdering us. And it doesn't work, and it won't work, because you are outside of divine law and nobody has to respect you. You are undesirable. So we are returning to this, right? So we have to start the uplifting of fallen humanity. We have to start with ourselves. We have to pick ourselves up and then help our brothers and sisters too, right? And then we can go out, to help assist humanity in general, right? But we have to keep that in mind, right? That our purpose is to uplift fallen humanity, that we stand on love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. That has to be in our thinking of how we go about our daily lives, because this keeps us in alignment with our sacred, mission, right? This keeps us in alignment with our divine laws, right? This keeps us on the path. Islam. All right, so this is how we uphold the Prophet's laws too, Islam. And then unless anybody has any questions, I'm gonna go ahead and move on. Islam. All right, so of course that begins with us. So The next question is then question 16. How did the prophet begin to uplift the Moorish Americans? And that is by teaching them to be themselves. All right. And this is, we actually talked about this earlier, right? Because just discussing all the different labels we had: Negro, then colored, now we're Black and African American, right? Islam, we have a question. Hang on.
Islam, if I may demonstrate, by learning to be ourselves in our customs and our traditions as Moorish American Muslims, there is a higher bar that is over us when it comes to our character. There's things that we're not supposed to do. There's things that if someone accuses us of, everybody else is like, nah, that's not what Moorish American Muslims do. So we have to be distinguished. We have to live this life for real so that we can be examples of the movement that Prophet Noble Drew Ali created for us. Islam.
Thank you for sharing that. That's right and exact, because the bar is lifted. As Black people, right, as African Americans, which might as well just say Negro, right? Because it all means the same. As Negroes, we're down for whatever. Anything goes. Our image is formed by the media, right? They actually get rappers to talk about selling drugs and being savages, and our people are actually going and copying this, right? Right? Some of the brothers were just talking about how people are actually ashamed of growing up in a household with their mom and dad. Like, they think it's cool to grow up in a broken household where your daddy ain't there. He don't even want nothing to do with you, right? Because they're trying to emulate the savagery that is being pushed on us. And that is insane, right? That's insane. And so, like, it's backwards. It's not even life imitating art. It's, well, actually, that's what's going on. It's not art imitating life. It's people trying to imitate what's being pushed on us. So they have the songs, Meg the Stallion singing about Savage, and then the new one with her and Cardi B. And it's just like, this is put out here as programming so that our women don't think it's cool to have morals and standards. Now they think it's cool to be sexually free. I'm out here, I'm down for whatever, right? How low are they going to set the bar? And if we were Moorish American Muslims and we stood for something, it wouldn't matter what they're putting out there, right? Because first off, more science. We know that's programming. We're not stupid. We're not just watching TV and all these things. We're thinking scientifically. So we know, okay, there's an agenda, but also we know what we stand on. So we have higher principles. We're not going for whatever. And that's really why returning to our ways, right? That's where our saving power is. Just by teaching us to be ourselves. What does that mean? Right? He uplifts us by teaching us to be ourselves. The first thing that you encounter in the Holy Quran in chapter 1, you learn that we are spirit and we are part of Allah, right? We have embedded within us the potencies and attributes of Allah. We have unlimited capacities for progress, okay? And that's also in the Quran in Surah 2, Ayat 30.
Islam.
Extremely important. You can't skip out on the whole Islam thing, because Allah in Surah 2 Ayat 30 is talking to the angels and he's letting them know, I will create a vice regent or a viceroy on earth. And the angels are saying to him, they said, wilt thou place therein one who will make mischief therein and shed blood, whilst we do celebrate thy praises and glorify thy holy name? And he said, I know what ye know not. So they're questioning him, and he's setting it straight. Like, okay, look, I'm creating man here to be my vice regent on earth, and the vice regent is an earthly representative, right? It's an earthly representative of God. That's a person delegating power or authority on behalf of God. Okay, and so by returning to Islam, this is what we're coming back into, Islam. So we don't need necessarily the Pope, because the Pope is supposed to be the vicar of Christ. We don't need that. We are all that. So we're returning to this, and once again in the chapter 1, it's letting us know that we are one. We are spirit. We are part of Allah. We have this unlimited capacity in for progress in us, that we are to be Lord over all the planes of things made manifest.
Islam.
That's what we're returning to. That we're our ancient forefathers were the founders of the first civilizations of the old world, and we are who they were. Right? If they created science, technology, they created, architecture, mathematics, all this stuff. That's who we are. So we're returning to that. And that's where your saving power is, in that knowledge of self, because now you have to live up to that. I can't say, oh, I want to be a more, because, I'm going to be in court and I'm going to be trying to get over these drug charges or DUIs or any of that stuff, because that's not becoming of a more, right? That's not being noble. We have to do better than that. I can't be who my ancestors were and be returning to my ways, right? Because once again, as we said, that's our saving power. How did the prophet begin to uplift Moorish Americans? By teaching them to be themselves. So myself, I can't be a Negro anymore, because those are Negro problems. We have to be more. We have to be who we are, who our ancestors were, right? We have to be so much more than that. So by being a Moorish American, you get rid of all of those problems. Yes, we're not supposed to be in and out of the courts. Not anymore, right? Because we are Moorish Americans, and Moorish Americans are better than that, right? We can't uplift fallen humanity if we're still acting like Negroes. And at the end of the day, that's what it is. That's the saving power, Islam. So once again, he's returning that responsibility to us. In chapter 1, it's also letting you know that you have the power in your mind. So we can't put it on the European. We can't put it on anyone. It's on us. How can anyone hold you down when you are a portion of Allah, when you are spirit, man? You're not even limited to the body. You have unlimited capacities for progress within you. So how can anyone oppress us? Nobody can oppress us. They may have tried in the past. That was just being done as a way to test us. Why? Because without a foe, a soldier never knows his strength. So nothing can hold us back. So we can't blame that on anyone. So if we're having problems still, it's because we're still being Negroes. And the Negro is a four-legged beast. So we can't be out here trying to make everybody see that Black Lives Matter. They don't. The black was a creation that keeps you in the undesirable status. They literally call us undesirables, just like that's what they call these people in this country called Yemen, who are just like, they're spit on, they're despised, they're treated terribly. And it's not just because they're dark skinned, it's because they literally don't know who their ancestors are. They don't know. They've been disconnected. I don't know if it's through slavery. I don't know enough of their history, but I know ours. I know how we got in this situation, and I know that the prophet came with the solution, with the saving power. So it's that simple. He taught us how to be ourselves. So we have to live up to this. Islam, I think somebody had their hand raised.
Peace, Islam. I rise and give high praises to Allah, honors to the prophet, honors to you more as an attendant. Man, I'm just gonna speak on what I got from that, and I mean, like we was going back and forth with bro on the internet, not to bring up those type of moments, but those type of moments actually taught me who's righteous and who's really who's really on it, you know what I mean? And a lot of the times people get caught up in seeking Allah and or you know, just going for the thrill of the knowledge or getting the edge off for, you know, for the knowledge. And a lot of that it's not worth it. I mean, it's not worth that energy. That's lower self energy. You know, you're trying to survive and scramble and make sure you on top of every paperwork, you know, and going to the, like you said, going to the courts. We don't belong in the courts, you know, that's not for us. But, you know, certain things that we have to do in order to nationalize, and that's only because we're part and parcel of this said government. And yeah, a lot of people are losing faith instead, and you know, instead they're going towards the lower self, just thrilling for the knowledge.
Islam. And just to add to that, brother, you're on point. You know, if you're in court because you're suing somebody, or I mean, you're just doing some regular business, like, well, there's a lot of like legit reasons you might be in court. But if you're in court for like criminal type stuff, like we're not supposed to be doing that. That's all I was referring to, like with the courts. It's not like you can't go to court to handle business, but Islam. So we're not supposed to be in there for Negro reasons, because the Prophet taught us how to be ourselves, and that's where the saving power is. Islam. We have another question hand raised.
Islam, I just want to add that we have the seed of perfect development planted within us. And, you know, we just full and bombarded with this life and distractions and, you know, what's going on in the government, Black Lives Matter, rioting, you know, coronavirus. We have to learn to be adept, step out of the madness and back into our oneness that, you know, supplies and nourishes our body, our minds, and our souls, so that we could continue to walk in the light. Because all this stuff, it will make you crazy. All this stuff will make you sick. All this stuff will turn you, you know, get your mind and make you act like a Negro, because that's what it is. It's subliminal. It's mind control. It's here. It's a trap. That's why they have trap music. That's why, you know, the drug dealers in the trap. It's all a trap. And that's why we have these meetings. And that's why I love you more as in attendance, because you're faithful and you're here and you are studying self and you're doing it every week. And that shows nobility. That shows character. That shows that you know that this life has more to offer than the madness. Islam?
Islam.
Coming back on that real quickly, because the thing is, I've seen people, you know, like in the course of about maybe between the past 5 years of my life, people that I've helped, and I've helped them out, you know, white family members and stuff like that, with nuts, and they needed that help, but no one ever told us and made us seem like the bad guy. And I've seen that. I've seen recently stuff that go on in my house, you know what I'm saying, in my own household, in my own nation, that I've seen going down, but it's like, hey, you know, my son brung a person in. So, of course, as more, I'm going to treat you the same way, and you're going to, you know what I'm saying, you're the same way as me. Let me try to find you a way. And all that, you know what I'm saying, I got treated the same way. My family got treated the same way as how the person came in. My thing is, as a mortal, you don't ever turn your back on that. You just learn more and more of how don't throw your pearls with swines, with Christians say. You kind of know that more. Like, I'm going to help anybody. I'm never going to turn my back to helping anybody. You ain't closed that door, but you made me think, like, who need help versus who need help to just throw it right in my face and make me feel a certain way. Come on.
Islam. Yeah, there's no nobility in acting all bougie and acting like we're all better than everybody, right? So yeah, definitely Islam. You're on point with that. Unless there's some questions, I'm gonna move on to number 17. Okay, so what is our religion? Islamism. All right, so just going into that, the word religion is composed of the Latin prefix re, which means again, back, tie, bind, fasten. Okay, so the word religion, that literally means to tie back or bind back to the original source, which is Allah, God. Okay. So, you know, we're tying back, we're binding back, we're returning to that. That's, you know, some people, you know, they try to talk bad about the word religion. Okay. And then Islam, why is that ism on there? Right. The ism denotes a distinct doctrine and interpretation of something. And it also, ism also indicates action, progression, and advancement. All right. And you could look at that and say that our interpretation and application of Islam is progressive as opposed to reactionary, as opposed to being stagnant, because it's Islamism, and that means action and progression and advancement, right? So for us, you know, it's something that we're putting into practice. We're doing on a regular basis. And just real quick, I'm gonna read quickly from What is Islam out of Moorish literature. It says Islam is a very simple faith. It requires man to recognize his duties to God, Allah, his creator, and his fellow creatures. It teaches the supreme duty of living at peace with one's surroundings. It is preeminently the religion of peace. The very name Islam means peace. The goal of man's life, according to Islam, is peace with everything, peace with Allah, and peace with man. The Quran, the holy book of Islam, tells us that the final abode of man is the house of peace, where no vain word or sinful discourse will be heard. The holy divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali, says that a founder of Islam, in the true sense of the word, is one whose hands, tongue, and thoughts do not hurt others. The object of man's life, according to Islam, is its complete unfoldment. Islam teaches that man is born with unlimited capacities for progress. That's what the sister said earlier. Islam does not support the idea that man was born in sin. It teaches that everyone has within him the seed of perfect development, and it rests solely with himself to make or mar his fortune. So just looking at that, you know, that's bringing the responsibility back to us. We don't believe that we're born in sin. You know, we have all this potential within us, right? So nobody can hold us back. Nobody can oppress us. They can try, but we know that was a mirage, right? Because without a foe, a soldier never knows his strength. So there's no excuses. There's no excuses for us to still be acting like Negroes either, because we know better now, right? So there's no excuse for Negro problems either. All right, we know better, and the responsibility is right back on us, because we have that unlimited potential within us. Okay, and we were not born in sin, right? We're better than that. Islam. So question 18, is that a new or is that an old time religion? And the answer is old time religion. All right, and it's the old time religion because it addresses the age old problems of our human nature. Right? This is an ancient religious creed, because Islam ultimately means peace, and we're putting it into action. We're making it a way of life. So this is something that's not even limited to, it's not limited to one area. It's not limited to the desert. It's not limited to Middle East or North Africa. And it's not even limited to this planet. It's universal. All right. So moving on. The question 19, what kind of flag is the Moorish? It is the red flag with the 5-pointed green star in the center. All right. All right. So this is from our perspective, this is an international flag. Right. It's a religious flag because it has the 5 points in it. These are the 5 points that we stand on, which is question 20. The 5 points represent love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Okay. And this is something that for us and the Asiatics in North America, this represents us, but also the whole Caribbean, right? Jamaica, Haiti, even on into South America, Barbados, You have more Asiatics in Brazil than you do in North America. So there's millions and millions of us. This is the great unifier, right? They can fly this flag next to their Brazil flag, or Jamaican flag with the Moorish flag. This unifies all of us, and we all have legit claim to this. Okay, and so this is huge. You know, there's people in Cuba, Moors in Puerto Rico, darker complexion than everybody's on the call, right? And this applies to them too. This applies to all of us. So this is a great unifier. And then the 5 points on the star, those are the highest principles known to man: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Islam. I yield the floor.
Mexico as well. I was a little kid. I was my daughter age. Mexico as well. I was always looked at as I'd never even being the color. Like that's why I never understood complex of color. You know what I'm saying? I was a little kid going to California because I was always looked at as different. What are you? Even when my wife and we got married, her grandmother was like, "What are you? What are you mixed with?" But it's like we all the same. We all the same. That's why I looked at her like I used to smile. Even before I knew this Perry, I smile. We all the same. Islam. I use the floor.
Islam. So this is potentially huge, but you know, we have to get ourselves together first, right? And we can spread this out to our brothers and sisters as well throughout the Americas and then throughout the world. Islam. So unless anybody else has any questions on those what we just went through 11 through 20, we're gonna go ahead and move on. I will open the floor up though to questions in general. I know there's some new people on the call, so if anyone has any questions, feel free to speak up. All right, if not, okay. Want to announce without further ado, we're going to go into the closing of the meeting. Brother Jackson Bey, would you please read the additional laws?
Islam, praise Allah, honor to the Prophet, honor to the Muslims, honor to everything Moorish, on this planet and every other planet, Islam. Islam, questionnaire and additional laws for the Moorish Americans by the Prophet Noble Jew Ali. Act 1. The grand sheikhs and governors and heads of all temples, all businesses, each said temple must be approved by the Prophet Noble Jew Ali before acting upon by any member, let it be finance, property, or any line of life that will cause the member to sacrifice finance, etc., that will cause the support of any group of members. Any former officer that violates these laws is subject to be removed from his office under heavy restrictions, etc., by the Prophet or the Grand Sheikh. Act 2. All members are to attend their added meetings and their public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around on their meeting period, shall be fined 50 cents on the first case, and on the second will be fined $1, which will go on your emergency fund. If a member is working, his monthly dues must be paid, and if he has money in the bank, he must subscribe for as much as he is able to the Moorish Uplifting Fund, because it takes finance to uplift the nation. Act 3. It is the lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he is able to finance, to aid me in saving the nation, and if he does not, he is an enemy to the cause of uplifting his own people, and justice must catch you. Let it be he or she according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as I have the power invested in my hands, and I have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. Act 4. All members while up making a public speech must not use any assertion against the American flag or speak radically against the church or any member of any organized group, because we are to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Act 5. All members must promptly attend their meetings and send their children to Sunday school, and the teacher must confirm himself to the questionnaire. and let every member exercise his 5 senses who is able to do so, because out of your Sunday school comes the guidance of the nation. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Jew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali, through the guidance of his father God, Allah. Islam, Islam, Islamism.
Islamism. Thank you, brother. Brother Kobe, would you please read the writs of the prophet?
Islam, I rise and give the highest prophet to our great God Allah. I rise to the highest prophet to the prophet Noble Jew Ali, and made everything possible. I give the highest rise and prophet and praise to all Muslims on this call and all over the world. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam, this is the instructions from your prophet Noble Jew Ali. Be faithful unto your forefathers' divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is on now, but the weak can comprehend it now. Not. The end of time is drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I, Noble Jew Ali. And that's why many hearts are turned to stone, and many eyes can see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear, lest they will be confined of their sins. These are the trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your profit. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principle of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace. Your divine prophet, Noble Jew Ali. Prophet wants all Muslims to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, and on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing cards of Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be a severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their rewards from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law that is laid down to them by the prophets, and they lose confidence in their prophet. They should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and turn to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Jew Ali, and the prophet is not right. The temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out a divine fleet to all Moorish Americans. They do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet Noble Jew Ali through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace, Noble Jew Ali. To be proclaimed at every meeting, Islam. I am glad to know I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and a desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation. They claim that I was a joke and unreal. But now, since they found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as an American citizen, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. Sounds like an older guy. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and of the funds, the ones that pay their divine respects to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I may shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works, which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet, Noble Jew Ali. Islam, Islam, Islamism.
Islamism. All right. Thank you, brother. Brother Thomas Bay, would you please read the divine warning?
Islam, I rise giving the highest praises to Allah, honors to his prophet, Noble Drew Ali, and honors to all you Moors in attendance on this call. A divine warning by the prophet for the nations. The citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitutions, are all one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classified as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names, abuses, and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of the free national government and cling to names and principles that allude to slavery. I, the prophet, was prepared by the great God Allah to warn my people to repent from their sinful ways and go back to the state and mind of their forefathers, divine and national principles, that they will be law-abiders and receive their divine rights as citizens according to free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings. They are to claim their own free national name and religion. There is but one issue for them to be recognized by this government and the earth, and it comes only through the connection to the Moorish Divine National Movement, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all other nations of the world. And through it, they and their children can receive their divine rights unmolested by other citizens, that they can cast a free national ballot at the polls under a free national constitution of their state's government, and not under granted privilege, as has been the existing conditions for many generations. You who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those who know law in City Hall and among the officials in your government and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply. for they are glad to see me bring you out of darkness into the light. Money does not make the man. It is a free national standards and power that makes a man and a nation. The wealth of all national governments, gold and silver and commerce, belongs to the citizens alone. And without your national citizenship, by name and principles, you have no true wealth. And I am hereby calling all true citizens that stand for a free national government and the enforcement of the Constitution to help me in my great missionary work, because I need all support from all American citizens of the United States of America. Help me save my people who have fallen from the constitutional laws of their government. I am depending on your support to get them back into the constitutional fold again, and they will learn to love instead of hate and live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, supporting our free national constitution of the United States of America. I love my people and I desire their unity and mind back to their own free national and divine standards, because day by day they have been violating the national constitutional laws of their government by clinging to names and principles that are unconstitutional. If the Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all American citizens alike. In all governments, when a man is born and raised there and asks for his national descent name, and if he fails to give it, he is misused, imprisoned, or exiled. Any group of people that fail to answer up to the constitutional standards of law by name and principles, because to the citizens of any government, you must claim your national descent name, because they place their trust upon issue and names formed by their forefathers. The word Negro alludes in the Latin language to the word nigger, the same as the word colored alludes to anything that is painted, varnished, and dyed. And every nation must bear a national descent name of their forefathers, because honoring thy fathers and thy mothers, your days will be lengthened upon this earth. These names have never been recognized by any American citizen of this day. Through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by said national government in which they live. The 14th and 15th Amendment brought the North and the South into unit, placing the Southerners, who were at that time without power, with the constitutional body of power. And at that time, 1865, the free national constitutional law was enforced since 1774, declared all men equal and free. And if all men were declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal, since that constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendments for the salvation of our people and citizens. So there isn't but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which was lost, and that is through the above statements. Then the lion and the lamb can lie down together in yonder hills, and neither will be harmed, because love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will be reigning in this land. In those days, the United States will be one of the greatest civilized and prosperous governments of the world. But if the above principles are not carried out by the citizens and my people in this government, the worst is yet to come, because the great God of the universe is not pleased with the works that are being performed in North America by my people, and this great sin must be removed from the land to save it from enormous earthquakes, diseases, etc. And I, the prophet, do herein believe that this administration of the government, being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens that believe in their free national constitution and laws, and through the help of such classes of citizens, I, the prophet, truly believe my people will find the true and divine way of their forefathers and learn to stop serving cardinal customs and merely ideas of men that have never done them any good but have always harmed them. So I, the prophet, am hereby calling aloud with a divine plea to all true American citizens to help me to remove this great sin which has been committed and is being practiced by my people in the United States of America, because they know it is not the true divine way, and without understanding, they have fallen from the light into utter darkness of sin. And there is not a nation on earth today that will recognize them socially, religiously, politically, or economically, etc. In their present condition of their endeavorment, in which they themselves try to force upon a civilized world. They will not refrain from their sinful ways of action, and their deeds have brought Jim Crowism, segregation, and everything that brings harm to human beings on earth. And they fought the Southerners for all these great misuses, but I have traveled in the South and have examined the conditions there. And it is the works of my people continuously practicing the things which bring dishonor, disgrace, and disrespect to any nation that lives the life. And I am hereby calling on all true American citizens for their moral support and finance to help me in my great missionary work to bring my people out of the darkness into the marvelous light from the prophet. Islam, Islam, Islamism.
Islamism. All right, thank you, brother. All right. Okay, sorry about that. So got distracted for a second. Thank you. Appreciate you all. Before we close, does anybody have any questions? All right. Okay. All meetings are to be opened and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Everyone, please rise and face the east for the closing prayer. Right, we're going to face the east. Feet at a 45-degree angle. Hold up 2 fingers on the right, 5 on the left. You do not need to repeat after me. Allah, bind our hearts and minds back to our ancient forefathers' divine creed and principles. This we ask in thy holy name in the 7 Elohim. Amen. Peace and love. Thank you all for attending. We will be doing Holy Day Friday at 7. Islam, Islam, Islamism.
Islamism.
Peace and love.
Peace
Praise
and love.
Allah. Peace and love, y'all. Y'all stay
Peace
safe.
and love, Muslim. Peace and love.
Islam, peace and love.
But peace, Moors.